Imagine the moment you're about to log into a website. A pesky window pops up. Prove your humanity. You perform some massive feat of human intelligence, like adding 6 plus 6. And voila, you're in. Thanks, WordPress. In the future world of work, it won't be quite so easy to prove our humanity. And the bigger question will be, why will it matter that we're human in the first place? According to global consulting firm McKinsey, approximately half of all worker activities can now be automated. In fact, that firm identified 70 entire occupations, from baking to accounting, in which 90% of human tasks could already be taken over by a machine. Just look at Watson. This IBM supercomputer famously beat an international human Jeopardy champion at his own game. But Watson wasn't done. Today, Dr. Watson is curing cancer. Leading diagnosticians from around the world are consulting Watson on their most troublesome cases. Even CEOs are changing their business models in response to automation. According to PricewaterhouseCoopers, 60% of CEOs will hire fewer humans in the next 5 years in response to automation. Last fall, I wrote in the New York Times that we human beings hang our hats on the idea that some professions, especially in caregiving, can never be automated due to the sophisticated level of personal interaction required. But according to Richard Young, executive director of Intelligent Future Consulting and author of the new book, Heart of the Machine, we should never say never. Starting in the mid-aughts, due to better computer hardware and algorithms, we made some major leaps forward in deep learning. As a result, we're now developing emotional computing and software programs that are aware of our moods and intentions and are able to respond accordingly. Just look at what Japan is doing in the era of social robotics. Riken and the Sumitomo Riko Company have launched Robert, a tall, non-threatening, gentle right nursing robot whose job is to interact with patients on a rudimentary level and help them move in and out of bed. But I ask you, as machines are capable of more and more, where does that leave us as human professionals? Where should we be focusing our attentions in order to be marketable and competitive in the years to come? I started thinking about this journey way back in 1988, when I was 12 years old, growing up in Montgomery County, Maryland, just a few towns over from the headquarters of the World Future Society. The goal of that organization was to project current trends into the future and see how they would impact society. My dad and I were really into science fiction. Dad was partial to Star Trek: The Next Generation. I was more into Orson Scott Card's Ender's Game series. In any case, we wanted to take a tour of the World Future Society because we had just seen that the Los Angeles Times had asked the organization to conceptualize what that city would look like around 2017. And here's what they came up with. Well, what I was excited about on the tour was the technology aspect. And there was one technology that really got me excited. It was called interactive television. And here was the idea. It would be a device that everyone would have in their hand, and you could push a button and boop, instantaneously, you could hear the Cosby Show episode you'd missed last Thursday night. You'd push another button and boop, instantly, you'd be able to hear the new Madonna single you'd been waiting all day for the radio to play. It was entertainment on demand at its finest, and I was hooked. I knew that I wanted to become a futurist when I grew up. I wanted to be one of those people that took current trends and projected them into future society. Well, the World Future Society was right. Interactive television, it did become a thing. In fact, it was the precursor for the technology that all of you have within a foot of your person. Yes, that's the smartphone. And I was right too. I would become a futurist. But it wouldn't happen without a lot of professional reinvention. The exact type of professional reinvention that all of you must undertake if you wish to remain competitive as machines encroach on your most marketable skills. When I graduated from Northwestern, I took a job at a large public relations agency in New York City. It took me a few years to learn how to play the game, but once I did, I wasn't sure the lifestyle was sustainable. The competition was too fierce, the hours were too long, the work was too stressful. Plus, my boss thought I was the second coming of the bad seed. So I started putting the pieces in place to form my own consultancy as a business and workplace author, speaker, and futurist. I wrote a couple of books. I did a lot of work for free. And then when my first child, Jonah, was born in 2008, I launched my business. Today, I consider myself to be a true 21st century employee. In the last 6 weeks, I have been on 12 different projects. I've had 8 current clients, I've been a member of 4 virtual teams, and I've done 2 conference calls in the middle of the night. My job is to identify my clients' needs before they know they have them. My job is to look at the developments in my industry and understand where things are going next so that I know how and where I need to pivot. If my client asks me a question and I don't know the answer, I'm responsible for figuring it out. I'm going to go take a massive open online course. I'm going to tap my network. And the most important thing that I do is I teach organizations and individuals how to become as agile as I've learned how to be. One of the ways that I do this is by teaching people about the 3 C's of future work, where we are going to need to focus our attentions in order to prove our humanity among smart machines. The 3 C's are collaboration, customization, and creativity. Let's start with collaboration. We all think we know how to collaborate. We've been doing group projects since kindergarten. We live in the era of open offices and communal eating spaces. Seriously, don't you want to walk into one of those restaurants and be like, no, I want a table for 2, not 20, but 2. But the way that we are collaborating is changing, and that's due in large part to the pervasiveness of something called the Internet of Things. For those of you who are a little fuzzy on the term, the Internet of Things refers to one device with an off and on switch speaking directly to another device with an off and on switch without human intermediation. Meaning, your printer can speak directly to your email, can speak directly to an app in the cloud without you being directly involved. And nowhere is the Internet of Things already more pervasive than in the sphere of manufacturing. This is a Black & Decker plant, and it's the quietest plant on Earth because the production lines are speaking directly to each other, telling each other when input and output needs to slow down, when it needs to speed up, when there's a problem with one of the many materials that are tracked via real-time location sensors. These are the era of machine intelligence, where there are fewer human beings in the plant. Where are they? Well, those human beings who are there have far more strategic roles. They have total visibility into operations. They are able to provide essential intelligence to the human decision makers that run the plant. And so I think the humans would agree that their role has been elevated, and it's more important than it ever was before. Even in our regular office buildings, we will be changing the way that we collaborate. Machines will be talking to each other as much as they talk to us. Increasingly, we're going to see bots being our assistants, being our colleagues, and even our bosses. Thanks to advances in deep learning and artificial intelligence, machines will have conversations. They will recognize patterns. They will solve business problems. However, in the regular professional office, I think we'll continue to see human involvement. Wherever there is a machine today, there still must be a human behind it to build it, to train it, to manage it, and to fix it when it's broken. We can't do without humans in those roles for the time being if machines are going to truly add value to human activities. The way that we collaborate with other human beings is going to be thrown a curveball as well. Have you recently been to a fancy downtown office building and marveled at the fact that there was no one there to appreciate the $1 million art installation because the building was completely empty? Companies are eventually going to wise up to the fact that in this era of virtual and remote work, many people are working elsewhere and elsewhere. And instead of investing in these large company-sponsored physical presence, they will lease chains of interconnected hubs that allow people to access space that they need to meet on demand. We may not meet many of our colleagues in person anyway, but how much will that matter? According to Gartner, by mid-21st century, the human team will be comprised of something called the swarm. The swarm refers to a team that is very quickly assembled for the express purpose of solving a specific business problem. Once the problem has been addressed, the team is disbanded. So I ask you, how do you develop workplace relationships with people you might have only been working with for 2 weeks or even 2 days? And then you might not have ever seen them face to face. Instead, you might be working with them via immersive technologies like augmented reality, virtual reality, or even telepresence, leading to interesting collaboration questions like, if someone moves your telepresence robot in an effort to get it out of the way, is he or she invading your personal space? You tell me. Our next C refers to customization. By mid-century, no human being's job will be exactly the same. For starters, half of us will be working in the contract workforce, otherwise known as the gig economy, and will be continuously bidding for new projects via sites like Upwork. That means that your competition for jobs will not be the people sitting here in this room, but rather it will be people with your skill set in countries like India, China, and Brazil, which will become the leading exporters of qualified talent. You will need to train and retrain all the time. It won't matter where you got your degree or when you got your degree, you will be responsible for constantly tapping new sources of information to ensure that you are as marketable as you can be. There will also be no such thing as looking at your boss and saying, yes, I'm going to move from point A to point B in my career. In this era of nonlinear career paths and lattice careers, you can move to any point you want. You can move from point A to point R. You can move from point A to point ZZ. Fortunately, you will have some guidance in terms of where you should focus your attention. Organizations like MIT are developing productivity wearables that analyze patterns of human behavior and analytics to tell you the tasks at which you are most productive. I bet you can't wait for your robot boss to pull you off working on a client plan because your colleague in Brazil is doing it more efficiently. That's the era of 21st century job customization. It isn't just your career that will be customized. Every moment of every day will be optimized for your maximum productivity and efficiency. The final C refers to creativity, and this is perhaps the most important. Robust employment in the mid-21st century will depend on the unexpected, non-routine, and interactive contributions that only human beings can make. And these contributions refer to human traits and skills like empathy, like being able to innovate, like being able to lead a team. And what we're going to have to do is figure out a way to insert our creativity into technology-driven processes. Case in point, big data. We all think we have more data than we know what to do with. And software can help us make sense of some of that data, but software isn't perfect. And I'm not convinced it ever will be perfect. Rather, we need human beings to tell us when software is misleading or even wrong. We need human beings to take a piece of data and extrapolate the meaningful business impact and deliver it to our human decision makers. We also need to be able to insert our creativity in areas where they're unexpected. We will have to tinker and build like only creative human beings can do. What about constructing applications that will solve real-world business problems in real time? We call this citizen development. And today, you don't have to be a programmer to take advantage of it. Gamification and simulation offer the promise of engaging and powerful career experiences. Gamification involves leveraging the elements of gameplay, like competition and point scoring and rules, but presents them in a real-life career-related scenario. Simulation involves putting us in a disruptive situation, but in the virtual world, so that there isn't any risk to our businesses or ourselves. But I ask you, who creates these games? Who creates these scenarios? Is a machine really capable of predicting what will incentivize a human team that has just been downsized for the 5th time? Can a machine really predict how a group of human factory workers will react in the immediate aftermath of a massive safety breach. This is an area where machines are not qualified to take over for us anytime soon. This is an area where you and me can add our value. Mahatma Gandhi once said, "The future depends on what we do in the present." You do not have to sit idly by and wait for a machine to take your job or render you unfulfilled for the rest of your life. Rather, proceed with intention. Stay on top of the developments in your industry to outsource and automate and figure out what you're going to do next. If something I've said here today resonates with you, learn more about it. Become a spokesperson. Teach other people how they can prove their humanity in the age of smart machines. Learn new skills, always. Experiment, solve problems, be innovative, and add value. Remember, no one, and especially no machine, has your unique combination of skills, attributes, and experiences. When the time comes to prove your humanity, you'll be ready. Thank you.